The night was silent over Earth, but in the skies above, silence was only an illusion. Far beyond the clouds, hidden in the darkness of space, something moved. Ships, colossal ships, stretching miles in length, waited like predators circling their prey. Their weapons glowed faintly, like eyes watching, waiting. They had not come for peace. They had come for surrender. The people of Earth did not yet know how close the danger was. Cities below sparkled with lights, unaware that an armada larger than anything humanity had imagined now filled the void above. The invaders had crossed galaxies with one clear message: surrender or be destroyed. Their empire had crushed 100 worlds before, and Earth was just another target. To them, it was simple. They expected fear. They expected obedience. They expected Earth to kneel without a fight. But Earth was not silent. Deep inside hidden bases, buried under mountains and oceans, humanity was awake. Leaders, soldiers, scientists, all worked in secrecy. The enemy thought Earth was weak, but they were wrong. Very wrong. Earth had been preparing for this moment. For years, strange signals had been intercepted, strange wrecks discovered on the edges of the solar system. Humanity had studied them, copied them, built something new, something no empire had expected from a world so young. A shadow moved across the blackness of space. The first alien warship entered orbit, its size so massive that whole cities could have rested inside it. It transmitted a signal in a language harsh and sharp, but translated instantly through every channel on Earth. The voice was cold, mechanical, dripping with arrogance. People of Earth, you are now subjects of the Valar Empire. Resist, and your world will burn. Kneel, and you may live. You have 1 hour to respond. On the ground, fear spread like wildfire. In homes, people froze as the broadcast filled every screen. Children cried, parents whispered prayers. Some fell silent in despair. But far away, deep under a mountain base, a different sound echoed. The sound of engines coming to life. The sound of weapons charging. A man in uniform stood before a massive screen filled with tactical data. His eyes were sharp, calm. He had trained for this moment. His voice carried through the command center. They think we are weak. They think we will kneel. They are wrong. Signal the fleets. All of them. Today, Earth stands. And so it began. The first ripple of movement came from the far side of the moon. Black shapes emerged from hidden hangars carved into rock. They looked like shadows at first, but as they moved, their forms became clear: warships. Human warships. Not hundreds. Not thousands. But tens of thousands. 12,000 ships, rising from silence, spreading like wings of steel across the void. The alien commanders hesitated for the first time. Their arrogance wavered. This was not what they had expected. Their scanners had told them Earth was primitive, incapable of building fleets of this size. Yet here they were, ships armed with rail cannons, plasma arrays, missiles that could split moons apart. Humanity had been quiet, but now the silence was broken. The sky above Earth began to shimmer as more ships decloaked, hidden until now. They formed vast lines, shields raised, engines burning bright. Every ship carried a crew who knew there might be no tomorrow, but every crew carried the same thought: Earth will not bow. The alien flagship sent another message, but this time there was a tremor in its voice. You cannot win. Your resistance is pointless. You will be destroyed. But even as the words spread across the airwaves, a human voice cut in, steady and unshaken. This is Earth. We do not surrender. Not today. Not ever. The fleets moved. Slowly at first, then faster, like storm clouds gathering speed. Alien ships adjusted formation, weapons powering up, lights flashing across their colossal hulls. The silence of space ended in a single heartbeat as the first shots were fired. A burst of light crossed the void. Alien cannons roared, their fire burning like suns. But humanity answered. Missiles streaked out like spears, plasma beams cut across the darkness, and the stars themselves seemed to tremble. The first alien ship cracked apart, its hull splitting in a fiery explosion that lit up the skies above Earth. On the ground, people looked up in shock as the night turned bright. For the first time, fear was not the only feeling. For the first time, hope burned. Humanity was fighting back. The battle was only beginning. Thousands of ships clashed, filling space with fire and thunder. The aliens had expected surrender, but what they found was defiance. 12,000 human warships now stood between Earth and destruction. The question was no longer if humanity would kneel. The question was, could the invaders survive the storm they had awakened? The first battle shook the stars. Fire reigned in the silence of space, and the night above Earth turned into a storm of light. Alien warships fired beams that could slice mountains in half, but humanity's fleets stood their ground. Missiles streaked out like arrows, rail cannons hammered, and every blast carried one message: Earth will not fall. The alien commanders were not used to resistance. 4 centuries, world after world had surrendered without a fight. But here, their ships burned. The first to fall was one of their destroyers, huge, armored, proud. It cracked open like glass, its wreckage scattering across orbit. Shock rippled through the alien ranks. Humanity had struck back harder than they thought possible. Inside the alien flagship, the supreme commander of the Valar Empire rose from his throne of steel. His eyes glowed like embers, his voice filled with rage. "Primitive fools," he hissed. "They dare defy us? Then show them the fire of our empire. Crush them all." His orders echoed through the fleet. Massive cannons charged, glowing brighter than stars. Then, with one command, the alien armada unleashed hell. Beams of energy carved through the darkness, slamming into the human lines. Dozens of ships went silent in seconds, consumed by fire. Human crews fought bravely, but the enemy's weapons were devastating. For every alien ship that fell, 10 human ships paid the price. In a hidden base far below, commanders on Earth watched the battle unfold on giant screens. Faces were pale, but their eyes burned with determination. The commander at the center spoke calmly. "They are stronger than we thought," he admitted. "But they don't know all our secrets yet." Signal Phase 2. And then Earth revealed another card. From the shadows beyond Mars, new fleets appeared. Not ordinary ships, but carriers unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. Their hulls shimmered with strange alloys, stolen and adapted from wrecked alien technology. And from their bays poured smaller crafts, thousands of fighters, swift and deadly. They darted like hornets across the battlefield, weaving through alien fire, striking with precision. Alien capital ships that once seemed invincible suddenly found themselves swarmed. Fighters slipped between shields, planting charges, hammering weak points. One alien cruiser exploded in a chain of fire, another spun out of control, crashing into its own fleet. For the first time, the invaders felt something new: fear. But the battle was far from over. The Valar Empire's ships were massive, ancient, and forged in wars across galaxies. They countered with ruthless discipline, cutting down swarms of fighters, blasting apart carriers, pushing forward with unstoppable momentum. The human lines bent under the pressure, ships exploding one after another. Aboard the human flagship Resolute, Captain Eric stood tall on the bridge. The ship shook violently as enemy fire tore across its shields. Sparks rained from the ceiling, alarms screamed, but his voice was steady. "Hold the line," he ordered. "Every minute we fight, we buy time. Time for Earth. Time for victory." His crew answered without hesitation. "Yes, Captain." The Resolute fired again, rail cannons thundering, plasma beams slicing into an enemy destroyer. The alien ship broke apart, but not before one last shot hammered the Resolute, tearing through its armor. The bridge shook so violently that several officers were thrown to the ground. Still, the captain stood firm, his eyes locked on the battle ahead. On Earth, billions watched the skies. Explosions lit up the night, turning darkness into fire. Families clutched each other, soldiers prepared in underground bunkers, scientists monitored systems that had never been tested in real war. The world held its breath. The aliens pressed harder. Their commander laughed coldly as human fleets faltered. "See how they fall," he sneered. "Their courage is meaningless against our power. Soon their skies will be ashes, and their world will bow." But at that very moment, something shifted. Deep in the ocean trenches, hidden for decades, massive structures began to rise. They were not ships built in space, but leviathans built on Earth itself. Submerged for years, powered by fusion hearts, they now emerged like titans from the sea. Gigantic Earth dreadnoughts. Each was larger than a city, their hulls plated with both human steel and alien alloys. They broke the waves and soared into the sky, engines blazing as they climbed into orbit. The people of Earth saw them rise and cheered through tears. The aliens saw them rise and froze in disbelief. 12,000 ships had shocked them. But now, humanity revealed its true giants. The dreadnoughts locked weapons, energy cores glowing like newborn suns. Their cannons charged with the fury of a planet that refused to kneel. Then, with a single command, they fired. The blast shook space itself. Alien warships shattered under the storm, whole formations torn apart in a single strike. The tide of battle shifted. Humanity, bloodied but unbroken, surged forward again. The aliens had expected surrender. What they faced now was resistance beyond imagination. And the war for Earth had only just begun. The battle raged in orbit, but it was only the beginning. Fire and wreckage drifted across the skies, and Earth's night glowed brighter than day. Humanity had struck harder than anyone expected, and the aliens had suffered their first real wounds. Yet the war was far from won. Both sides knew it. On the bridge of the alien flagship, the Valor commander paced with fury. His eyes burned as he watched the chaos outside. Ships that were supposed to be invincible now floated in pieces. Whole squadrons had been wiped out. Never before had his empire faced such defiance from a single planet. He slammed his clawed hand against the armrest of his throne. "Unacceptable," he growled. "They dare resist us? They dare bleed us? Then let them suffer." His officers bowed, their voices uneasy. "Commander, the humans, they fight with weapons we did not know they possessed. Their numbers are greater than our records. Their tactics—" "Silence!" the commander roared. His voice shook the chamber. "They are nothing but children with stolen toys. We will burn those toys, and we will burn their world." But deep inside, even he felt something new, a faint, unwelcome shadow of doubt. Far below, aboard the human flagship Resolute, the battle left scars of its own. Fires burned across the corridors, wounded crew were carried to med bays, and every officer knew the cost of defiance. Yet no one spoke of surrender. Not one. Captain Eric stood at the command table, his uniform torn, his face lined with exhaustion. Around him, holograms of the battlefield flickered with red, ships lost, formations broken. Still, his voice carried strength. "How many carriers remain?" "4, sir," an officer replied. "2 are heavily damaged. But the dreadnoughts are holding. Their firepower is keeping the enemy from pressing further." Eric nodded, his jaw set. "Then we fight with what we have. Every minute we hold is a victory. Every hour we survive is another wound to their pride." He turned to the communications officer. "Patch me through to all fleets." A moment later, his voice echoed across thousands of ships, into the ears of pilots, engineers, soldiers, and commanders. "This is Captain Eric of the Resolute. You see the fire outside your windows. You know the cost we pay. But remember this, Earth watches us. Our families watch us. And we will not fail them. They expected us to kneel. Show them we stand." A chorus of voices answered across comms. For Earth. For humanity. Even in the darkest moments, hope still burned. On the ground, people gathered in city squares, staring at the sky where explosions shimmered like falling stars. For the first time, they saw their defenders not as distant soldiers but as heroes holding the line for every man, woman, and child below. Fear had not vanished, but it was no longer alone. Courage grew beside it. Meanwhile, in secret chambers far from the front lines, Earth's leaders met. Screens showed live feeds of the battle, data scrolling endlessly. A scientist, pale with worry, leaned forward. If they call reinforcements, our fleets may not endure. This is only the first wave. The Empire is vast. They will return stronger. The Supreme Commander of Earth's Defense Council, an older woman with steel in her voice, replied firmly. Then we prepare for the storm. Humanity did not come this far to surrender now. We will bleed them with every step. If they bring more, we will rise higher. If they send their whole empire, then all of Earth will fight. Her words became the spark of a plan. Back in orbit, the aliens tightened formation, regrouping after their losses. Their commander snarled as he watched human dreadnoughts continue to fire, breaking ships apart one by one. They will not stop, he muttered. Then we will summon the arm of the Empire itself. He turned to his officers. Send the signal. Call the Second Fleet. The order spread like wildfire across alien communications. A beacon pulsed into the void, traveling faster than light, reaching distant systems where countless more ships waited. Reinforcements would come. Not hundreds. Not thousands. But tens of thousands. Human sensors caught the signal almost immediately. Alarms rang on every ship. Officers stared at screens in horror. They're calling reinforcements, whispered one. More fleets, more than we can face. Captain Eric heard the report. His heart sank, but his face remained steady. Then we prepare. They think more numbers will break us. They do not understand. We will not break. The crew straightened, fear replaced by determination. If this was to be humanity's last stand, then it would be written in fire across the stars. Far from the battlefield, in the silent darkness of deep space, new shadows began to move. Alien reinforcements. Massive fleets awakening, engines roaring, weapons charging. They were coming. The first wave had been brutal. The second would be worse. Much worse. And as Earth's battered fleets steadied themselves, as dreadnoughts reloaded their cannons and fighters regrouped, everyone knew the truth. The war had only just begun, and the storm that was coming would decide not just Earth's fate, but humanity's place in the galaxy itself. The battlefield above Earth had fallen silent, but it was not peace. Wreckage drifted across orbit, glowing faintly as fires burned in the void. Thousands of human lives had been lost, and dozens of ships were gone. Yet Earth still stood. Against all odds, humanity had survived the first storm. On the bridge of the Resolute, Captain Eric watched the damage reports. His ship was scarred, its shields broken, its armor torn. Many of his officers were gone, and still more lay wounded. But the engines were alive, the cannons reloaded, and his crew refused to surrender. "Status of the fleets?" he asked quietly. An officer replied with a trembling voice. "We've lost nearly a third of our ships. Carriers are down to half strength. Fighters are scattered but regrouping. Dreadnoughts, 3 are damaged, but all are still operational." Eric exhaled slowly. They had fought the Empire's first wave, but the second was coming. Everyone knew it. The beacon the aliens sent would call reinforcements beyond anything humanity had faced. Tens of thousands of ships, maybe more. The thought weighed heavy, but Eric's eyes hardened. Then we make every second count. Begin repairs. Recall every fighter. Every engineer, every soldier, prepare them. We may not get another chance. All across Earth and its orbit, humanity moved with desperate speed. Ships limped back to hidden docks on the moon, engineers worked in firelit hangars, and medics fought to save every wounded soldier. On Earth's surface, whole cities shifted into war factories, pouring out weapons, drones, and supplies. It was not just an army anymore. It was a planet rising to defend itself. Meanwhile, deep under the oceans, where pressure crushed steel, another secret stirred. For years, Earth's brightest minds had worked in silence on something beyond warships and fighters. Something risky. Something untested. They had called it Project Eclipse. Dr. Kalin, one of the lead scientists, stood inside a vast chamber as water poured away, revealing a shape unlike any other. It was not a ship in the usual sense, but a weapon the size of a mountain, forged to channel energies humanity had barely begun to understand. It pulsed faintly, as if alive. One of her assistants whispered nervously, "If we use it, there may be no turning back." Kalen's eyes were tired but steady. "If we do not use it, there may be no future to turn back to. Prepare the eclipse. Humanity may need it before the storm ends." Back in orbit, the alien commander watched from his throne as his surviving fleet regrouped. His ships had suffered heavy losses, and that alone filled him with rage. No world had ever cost him so much. Yet his anger also turned into cold amusement. "Let them repair their toys," he sneered. "Let them hope. It will only make their fall sweeter." His eyes narrowed as he thought of the Second Fleet. They would arrive soon, armed with firepower far beyond the first wave. With them, Earth's defenses would collapse. Resistance would shatter. Humanity would burn. But what the commander did not know was that humanity had grown stronger in silence, and every hour bought in battle only made them more dangerous. On Earth's surface, people gathered in the streets, staring at the sky where explosions had once burned. Children held onto their parents, whispering questions. Would the soldiers win? Would Earth survive? And though no one had an answer, there was something new in their eyes. Not only fear. Not only despair. But pride. In every bunker, in every base, soldiers readied their weapons, pilots sharpened their focus, engineers checked and rechecked systems. Humanity had bled, but it had not broken. On the Resolute, Captain Eric stood before his crew. His voice was steady, his gaze firm. "They are coming with more. More than we have ever faced. But remember this, we are fighting for every child who looks at the sky tonight, for every family who prays for us, for every life on this planet. If we fall, Earth falls. But if we stand, we show the galaxy what humanity truly is." The crew straightened, fire in their eyes. "Yes, Captain." And so the waiting began. Hours stretched into a long silence, broken only by the hum of repairs and the whispers of those who knew the storm was coming. Then, sensors lit up. A tremor rippled across the command decks of every ship. Distant signals, faint at first, then growing stronger. Shadows in the dark. The Second Fleet had arrived. Not hundreds. Not thousands. But more than 20,000 alien warships, each larger and deadlier than the first wave. They emerged from the void like a tidal wave of steel and fire, their formation stretching across the stars. On the alien flagship, the commander's voice thundered through the comms. "Behold the true strength of the Valar Empire. Kneel now, or be erased." On the Resolute, silence filled the bridge as the human crew stared at the impossible sight. 20,000 ships against their battered fleets. For a moment, fear threatened to return. But then Eric's voice cut through the silence. "Signal all fleets. Hold the line. Humanity has stood before gods tonight, and we are still here. Let them come." And as the alien armada spread across the skies, Earth's fleets raised their weapons once more. The second storm was here. And this time, there would be no retreat. The second storm fell upon Earth like the wrath of gods. 20,000 alien warships stretched across the stars, their formation so vast it looked like a wall of fire moving through the void. Their weapons lit up in unison, and the night above Earth turned into a furnace of destruction. Human fleets braced for impact. Dreadnoughts raised their shields, carriers launched their last waves of fighters, and the Resolute led the front lines. But even 12,000 ships looked small against the ocean of steel that now approached. The first strike hit. Alien cannons fired beams of light so bright they cut through shields and armor alike. Human ships burst apart in fiery silence, their wreckage scattering into the void. Entire squadrons were erased in seconds. On the Resolute, alarms screamed. The bridge shook violently as the ship absorbed the shock of another hit. Officers clung to their stations, sparks flying, smoke filling the air. "Shields at 40%, one shouted. "Starboard batteries offline," cried another. Captain Arek's voice remained steady, though the ship shook around him. "Keep firing. Don't stop. Every shot we take is one step closer to victory." Across the battlefield, fighters darted like sparks in the dark, weaving between alien fire, striking at weak points. Some found their marks, crippling enemy cruisers. But for every alien ship destroyed, 10 more pressed forward. The numbers were overwhelming, the enemy relentless. In the war rooms beneath Earth, leaders and scientists watched the battle unfold with grim silence. Ships exploded on their screens faster than they could count. Even the dreadnoughts, Earth's giants, groaned under the storm. Their mighty cannons tore through alien formations, but even they began to falter under the weight of 20,000 enemies. A general clenched his fists. "They won't hold much longer." Dr. Kalin, standing at the edge of the room, whispered the words no one wanted to hear. "Then it's time. We must deploy the Eclipse." The council hesitated. The Eclipse was untested, dangerous. If it failed, it could destroy Earth itself. But if they did nothing, the fleets would fall, and surrender would be the only future left. The council leader gave a single nod. "Activate Project Eclipse." Far below the oceans, deep in the crushing dark, the great machine stirred. The waters boiled as its engines roared to life, glowing brighter than suns. Slowly, impossibly, the weapon rose from the abyss. It was no ordinary ship, but a leviathan of steel and light, larger than even the dreadnoughts. Its surface pulsed with strange energy, drawn from secrets humanity had stolen from alien wrecks and twisted into something new. The Eclipse broke the waves in silence, then climbed into the sky, engines blazing. As it rose higher, the clouds burned away, and all of Earth saw it. A titan rising to stand against the storm. On the alien flagship, the Valor commander froze. His eyes narrowed, and for the first time, he felt true unease. "What is this?" he muttered. "This is no ship of theirs. This is something else." The Eclipse entered orbit. Its systems charged, its massive core humming like a heartbeat. Every human ship received the same message. A calm, steady voice filled their comms. "This is Project Eclipse. Humanity does not surrender." For a moment, silence filled the battlefield. Then the Eclipse fired. A beam of pure energy burst from its core, brighter than the sun, cutting across the void. Alien warships were caught in its path, dozens at once, and they disintegrated instantly, torn apart as if the stars themselves had turned against them. The battlefield erupted with shock. Human crews cheered, their spirits reignited. The invincible wall of alien steel had been broken. The Eclipse fired again, and another swath of enemy ships vanished in a blaze of light. The alien commander roared in fury. "No! It cannot be! This world, this primitive world, should not have such power." But it did. Humanity had forged a weapon beyond imagination, and now it was turning the tide. Still, the battle was not over. The aliens regrouped, their numbers still vast, their weapons still deadly. The Eclipse was mighty, but its power came at a cost. Each shot drained its core, each blast threatened to tear it apart from within. It could not fire forever. On the Resolute, Captain Arik watched as the Eclipse carved through the enemy lines. His heart surged with hope, but he also saw the danger. "If that weapon fails before the battle is won," he murmured, "we will all fall." The fleets fought on, every ship, every fighter, every soldier knowing the truth. This was the moment. Either humanity stood, or humanity ended. And as the Eclipse's core burned brighter, as alien ships closed in once more, one question echoed across every heart, human and alien alike. Would Earth's last weapon be enough to survive the storm? The battlefield burned brighter than the sun. Alien ships shattered under the Eclipse's fury, their wreckage scattering like sparks across the dark. Humanity had struck back with fire no one thought possible, and for a moment, hope filled every heart. The eclipse was unstoppable. The invincible armada was breaking. But hope can be fragile. On the alien flagship, the Valor commander rose from his throne, his face twisted in rage and disbelief. His empire had conquered countless worlds. None had stood against him. And yet here, on a single young planet, his fleets were falling apart. He slammed his claws against the console, his voice echoing like thunder. Enough. If they dare reveal their greatest weapon, then so shall we. A dark command spread across alien channels, encrypted in codes no human ear could understand. Far behind the front lines, hidden among the massive ships of the Second Fleet, something began to move. At first, it looked like another capital ship. But as it emerged, its true form dwarfed every vessel around it. Black and jagged, covered in spines that glowed with crimson fire, it was less a ship and more a nightmare forged into steel. Its engines tore at space itself, and its weapons pulsed with a power older than Earth. The alien flagship spoke with pride. Behold the Harbinger. Forged by the Empire's oldest hands, powered by the suns of dead worlds. Your eclipse will die in its shadow. The Harbinger advanced, its hull so vast it blocked the stars behind it. Human fleets faltered at the sight, their voices trembling across comms. What is that thing?" whispered one pilot. On the Resolute, Captain Eric stood frozen for a heartbeat, his jaw tight. Then his voice cut through the fear. "It is their monster. And monsters can bleed. Prepare the fleet. Protect the eclipse at all costs." The eclipse itself glowed brighter, preparing another strike. Its massive core pulsed, charging for a blast. The Harbinger answered. A beam of crimson energy erupted from its central weapon, wider than a city, tearing through space like the hand of a god. The two beams met. Light against darkness. Energy so fierce it shook every ship in orbit. The clash lit up the void, brighter than any sun, until both beams collapsed in a thunderous shockwave. Entire formations of smaller ships, both human and alien, were caught in the blast, ripped apart in an instant. The eclipse trembled, its systems groaning, alarms screaming across its decks. Inside, scientists and engineers fought to hold the machine together. Dr. Kalin gripped the railing as sparks rained around her. "The core is overheating," a technician shouted. "If we fire again without stabilizing, it could tear itself apart." Kalin's voice was steel. "If we don't fire, Earth will fall. Push the limits. We did not build the eclipse to survive, we built it to win." The eclipse fired again. Its beam tore through a squadron of alien cruisers, burning a hole straight toward the Harbinger. But the alien superweapon shifted, its spines glowing as it absorbed the blast, scattering the energy across its monstrous hull. On the alien flagship, the commander smiled coldly. "Pathetic. Their toy burns itself just to scratch us. End them." The Harbinger fired once more. This time, the beam struck the eclipse directly. Shields cracked, armor peeled away, and the mighty weapon groaned as if alive. On Earth, people watched in horror as their last hope staggered under the enemy's fire. On the Resolute, officers shouted, their voices desperate. "The eclipse can't take another hit. Shields are collapsing." Eric's eyes burned with defiance. "Then we buy it time. Signal all ships. Every fighter, every dreadnought, focus fire on the Harbinger. Protect the eclipse with your lives." And so they did. Humanity's fleets surged forward, hurling themselves into the firestorm. Dreadnoughts unleashed their full power, rail cannons pounding against the Harbinger's shields. Fighters swarmed like hornets, striking at weak points, even as alien cannons tore them apart. One by one, human ships fell. But they bought seconds, precious seconds. Seconds the eclipse needed to charge again. Inside the eclipse, alarms screamed louder. The core was unstable, glowing so bright the walls shook. Kalin gritted her teeth. Ready the final shot. Her assistant's eyes widened. Final? If we release that much energy, the eclipse may not survive. Kalin's gaze was steady. Then it will die as it was meant to live. As Earth's shield. Outside, the Harbinger turned its massive weapon toward Earth itself. Not toward fleets. Not toward the eclipse. Toward the planet. The alien commander's voice thundered across every channel. If you will not kneel, then burn. Let your world be the example. On Earth, billions stared at the sky, their voices rising in terror. The Harbinger's cannon charged, glowing crimson, aimed at the blue world below. But in the darkness above, the eclipse's core flared, brighter than it ever had before. Its energy screamed, a sun caged within steel, ready to burst. And as the Harbinger prepared to fire, the eclipse unleashed its fury. The stars themselves seemed to vanish under the blast. The stars vanished in light. The eclipse's final blast tore across the void, brighter than anything humanity had ever seen. It was not a weapons shot, it was a supernova unleashed. The beam struck the Harbinger head-on. For the first time, the alien superweapon trembled. Its shields cracked, its spines shattered, and its hull screamed as fire consumed it. The crimson glow of its cannon flickered, then collapsed as the eclipse's fury ripped through its core. The Harbinger broke apart in silence, its colossal body splitting in two, flames spilling across the battlefield. For the first time, the Empire's greatest weapon fell. Human fleets erupted in cheers. Pilots shouted, officers slammed their fists on consoles, soldiers cried with relief. On Earth's surface, billions watched the skies as the fire faded, and hope returned like dawn after the longest night. But hope came with a cost. The eclipse floated broken in orbit, its hull cracked, its glow fading. Inside, Dr. Kalin held onto a railing as the deck shook violently. Systems failed one by one, sparks filled the air, and alarms screamed their final warnings. The core was dying. An engineer cried out, "We can't stabilize it. If it goes, it will tear itself apart." Kalin's voice was steady, though her eyes were wet. "Then we guide it. One last strike. The Harbinger is gone, but their fleets remain. We end this here." She opened the comms to every human ship. Her voice carried across the battlefield, across Earth itself. "This is the eclipse. We will not survive. But we will finish what we began. Protect Earth. Live for tomorrow." Captain Eric on the Resolute closed his eyes for a heartbeat, then bowed his head. "Eclipse, thank you." The remaining human fleets pulled back, giving the Leviathan space. Alien ships tried to regroup, their commanders shouting in panic. Without the Harbinger, their formation faltered, but their numbers were still overwhelming. They surged forward, desperate to strike Earth before the humans could recover. The eclipse's core burned brighter, brighter than the sun. Its structure screamed under the pressure, but it held long enough for one last act. Kalin whispered, almost to herself, "For Earth." Then the eclipse fired. Not a beam this time. Not a single strike. But an eruption of energy in all directions, a sphere of light that expanded outward like a second star born above Earth. Alien ships caught in its path had no chance. Cruisers melted, destroyers shattered, even the Empire's capital ships broke apart as the wave consumed them. The void filled with fire. Thousands of enemy ships vanished in an instant. The Empire's mighty Second Fleet, erased. And at the heart of it, the eclipse was gone. When the light faded, silence returned to space. Wreckage drifted everywhere, glowing faintly against the stars. Humanity's fleets, battered and broken, floated among the ruins. The Harbinger was destroyed. The Second Fleet was gone. Earth was alive. On the Resolute, the bridge was quiet. Officers stared at their screens, stunned by what they had witnessed. Slowly, Captain Eric stood, his voice low but firm. "Signal to Earth, the sky is clear. The eclipse has fallen, but humanity stands." The message spread across the planet. Across bunkers, cities, and every hidden base, people cried out. Some wept for the lives lost. Some cheered in joy. But all of Earth lifted their voices together, not in fear, not in despair, but in pride. In the alien flagship, What few survivors remained stared at the ruins of their once mighty fleet. The Valor commander gripped his throne in silence. His empire had faced resistance before, but never like this. Never against a world so young, so defiant. His lips curled in hatred, but also in something unfamiliar, respect. "This is not the end," he growled softly. "But Earth has earned its place." And with that, the surviving alien ships turned and fled into the dark. On Earth, the war was not forgotten. Too much had been lost. Entire families mourned, fleets were shattered, and the eclipse was gone forever. But its sacrifice had saved the planet. Its light had burned a message into the stars: humanity would not kneel. Humanity would fight. Humanity would endure. That night, people across the world looked at the sky, no longer in fear, but in wonder. The stars no longer seemed distant. They seemed closer, like a promise. A promise that Earth was no longer alone, and that the galaxy would remember the day humanity stood. And far above, in the quiet void, the wreckage of the eclipse drifted silently, glowing faintly like a fallen star. Broken, but eternal. For Earth. For humanity. For tomorrow.